John Woodruff, 36, of Scotia, New York, was a staunch outdoorsman and a skilled marksman, so it came as no surprise to many who knew him when he quit his position at the J.A. Lindsley Real Estate Office on State Street in Schenectady to join the state's game protector team. Many men who wanted to work outdoors found the possibility of an adventurous career as a game protector to be appealing. On November the 1st, 1919, George D. Pratt, the Conservation Commissioner for the state of New York, appointed John. On the morning of Thanksgiving, November the 27th, 1919, John said goodbye to his wife and his 2 children, Ferris and Ruth. Mrs. Woodruff started to worry as soon as her husband left for work. She was aware of the risks he had to contend with since being hired as a game protector. Mabel was aware that her spouse had received threatening notes. She observed her husband tearing up a letter in front of her and stating, "They're not going to get me." As Mrs. Woodruff saw her husband leave the house, she tried her best to suppress her concerns. Mrs. Woodruff was understandably worried when John Woodruff did not come home that evening for dinner with his small family. She contacted the police, fearing the worst, hoping for the best, and fervently praying that her husband would return home soon. The local officials responded right away. The newly formed state police, which had only been created 2 years earlier in 1917, joined up with the area game protectors and sheriff deputies. The hunt was in what was then known as the wilds of South Schenectady, Guilderland, and Carmen. Despite the extensive efforts, the search was suspended after several days, leaving game protector Woodruff's location unknown. Although there were leads, they did not lead anywhere. Local newspapers covered Woodruff's disappearance in 1919 for a few days before the investigation and media attention fizzled. George H. Barrett, a railroad car repairman from Rotterdam, was trekking through the woods near Amsterdam Road in search of arbutus. He noticed something unusual in the Rotterdam Creek bed on April the 3rd, 1921, 16 months after John Woodruff had gone missing. As George understood that he was seeing the skeletal remains of a man with 2 gold teeth, he grew worried. Heavy slate stones were put on top of the body to create a partial tomb, holding the remains in place in a depression in the stream bed. John Woodruff had been located. The remains were taken to the local coroner's office, where Alexander G. Baxter determined that Woodruff had died from a blow to the back of the head, delivered by a strong man. It is suspected that the attacker pounced when John turned his back on him, given Woodruff's skill with a revolver. John recently won a shooting competition at the Game Protector event. Despite all efforts, the attacker's identity remained a mystery. John's gun or badge was never found. John Woodruff was laid to rest in Schenectady Vale Cemetery. The family was devastated by his death. The $50 per month stipend his wife received from the Conservation Commission was insufficient to support the family. According to John's surviving great-granddaughter, they lost the house. The case was reopened in 1947, but it yielded no new results. In the early 2000s, a rumor circulated about a deceased Glenville man who told his wife he murdered John Woodruff. However, the veracity of this story is unknown. Unfortunately, the killing of game protectors did not end with the assassination of John Woodruff. Many lives were lost. Game protectors were not well received. During my research, I discovered that some game protectors were killed just for protecting songbirds. They were put in place as our modern-day game wardens are. We cannot overhunt. These men were put in place to protect the species. The job of game protector gradually gained respect. It was not long before it became a highly sought-after position. Today, John Woodruff's murder remains a mystery. His sacrifice, as well as the others, will not be forgotten.